Then if you didn't have that course, yeah, I'm not denying that, but I'm saying that there's a higher level one, which the religious one is like, oh, there's an eschaton, there's an afterlife, there's a bigger picture. You cannot compete with that.
Yeah,
I'm saying, yeah.
I think one of my stories would be there is something as like to be moral, to be good. There are good actions and bad actions. I want to do good actions and consider myself moral.
Fine.
So that transcends. That is my driving thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just trying to push back against the idea that you need to inject. Only religion can give you these.
I didn't say only. No. Certainly, that's not my point.
Yeah.
I'm saying any metaphysic which is transcendental has the potential to do that.
Yeah.
But I feel like religion is particularly effective. Why? Because religion gives you a promise of an eschaton, of an afterlife.
Yeah, but
but seriously, like, if you let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question. If you actually, it's conditional. If you actually believed, like with the way that you believe that I'm speaking to you right now, yeah, that you exist, that if you die, that there's going to be heaven and hell, that they exist, yeah. That there is such a no, but if I know you don't believe it,
I'm not
but just put yourself put yourself in my position for a second. If you actually believe that there will be an everlasting gardens and this and that, and you believe in all that stuff, you believe in the honey and the perfect. You believe in all of it, virgins, all of these things, all of the things you like, and I like, and every man likes, except for the homosexuals. Homosexuals might not like virgin women, right?
No, probably not.
But yeah, what I'm saying is, if you actually believed that all of these things, my question is, would this act as an incentive for you or not?
If I actually believed it, I would be like, well, actually, it's difficult to say because I'm not very like goal oriented. But obviously, you're saying like this is the greatest reward you could ever get. So would you walk towards the greatest reward? Yeah, probably. But whatever. But this is
how motivated. But do you know how brave that would make you? Like, I'm telling you, this is the real. Forget about red pill and blue pill. I'm saying it's the magic pill right now because, no, honestly, not genuinely. I'll be honest with you, Like right now, if you knew that if you were walking the street, you saw someone get attacked and knife and this and that, if I was an atheist, if I was a secularist, I'll be honest with you. I'll be honest with you. If I was walking around here right now, and I saw somebody getting stabbed or something, or getting beaten up, and I think to myself, if I get there, I can get beaten up as well. If I see a woman getting raped, stranger rape, which is highest here, according to the WHO report, highest in the Western world.
Where, in UK, in London?
No, in the Western world, in general.
Where?
In the Western world, that's what they said.
It's highest happening in the Western
stranger rate, according. What I'm saying is, imagine if I'm walking and I'm seeing that, If I'm an atheist, egoist, because that's what we fundamentally are, psychologically, I would think to myself, why am I going to put myself in danger for this other woman? I don't know her. I am going to think that. But as a Muslim, what I'm thinking to myself is this. I'm thinking, wait a minute, if I go and save this woman, no, I'm being serious.
That's not the way your mind works.
No, wallahi, it does work like that. No, it does. No, I know, but what I'm saying is, this is how a person should like think,
This is how you like.
I think, okay, but if I get involved in this thing, I try and stop this, and I get stabbed and killed. But then the Prophet ﷺ, he said that "Man qutila duna nafsihi fahuwa shaheed." Whoever was killed trying to defend his life is a martyr.
You're resurrected, don't you?
Yeah, all that. No, but if you actually believe in that, imagine now. Imagine I actually believe in that. Right? So if I believe in it,
don't they talk about the noble lie? Don't they? He talks about that. Isn't it just like that?
No, it's not, because we are talking about something which we believe is not a lie, right? So that's the difference.
Yeah, but the noble lie is just tell a lie to someone, it makes them do good stuff.
But we'd have to establish whether it's a lie or not, and that's a different discussion. I'm just talking about a psychological thing. We don't want to go into different discussions here. I'm saying that on a psychological front, that would make me more brave. Because I feel like, okay, I'll put my life on the line. I'll do it. No problem.
If you give someone like a tremendous thing like that, doesn't it just also cause fanaticism?
It can do. No, it can. No, it can do. That's why.
Single-mindedly.
Of course, there's fanatics. So that's what I'm saying.
Not the best. Maybe,
no.
Maybe the best is like a cold disposition. We'll weigh it all up and see. Maybe we can work out what's good and bad. You know?
Right. I understand that there's a problem with fanaticism. I'm not denying that. And they use the same bravery as the ones that are doing noble things will do, right? But
we're just weighing up.
Agreed. But when we're saying that if people truly embodied the Islamic spirit, if they truly embodied, which is not, I would argue, is not the fanatic interpretation. That's my interpretation. I think that's a false interpretation. If they truly embodied the Islamic spirit, and ask yourself a question, what we're seeing here in terms of diffusion of responsibility, yeah? We are seeing something in psychology refers to as diffusion of responsibility. Someone gets beaten up, everyone's just pulling out their phone and checking that. If you go to, no, honestly, go to any African country of your choosing. Any of your choosing, yeah?
Okay, yeah?
Go to any country which is so-called low LEDC, yeah? That's an unthinkable thing. Like, people are fighting in the street and you just like, no. They get involved and try and stop it and stuff, but people don't do that. That's why you have 50,000 people, according to the what do you call it? Met Police. Yeah? Not Met Police, the official government statistics. 50,000 people a year being stabbed in the UK. 50,000.
Yeah.
50,000. Do you know why people are getting stabbed like that? Because the police are cowards. They do tactical retreat. They're scared to engage with the knife fighters. And also the public are cowardly. If they were living in a country where actually bring out a knife and the whole community will come out against you and deal with you because there's a communitarian spirit, we wouldn't find there are levels of knife crime in the UK being that level. Compare, once again, this might be a big claim, but I'm making it, yeah? Compare the levels of knife crime in the UK with any Middle Eastern country of your choosing, including Syria. Including Syria. I promise you, there is more knife crime in London than there is in Syria. I promise you. The war zones, even in the war zones, there's more than that. I promise you there is.
Well, even during ISIS?
No, not during the actual, like, you know, whatever, but because there's gun crime there anyway. Yeah, no. But no, I promise you, go to anywhere you like, the knife crime we're finding in the UK it beats almost any country in the world. It's up there. Why are people? Because they don't have regard for human life. People are cowardly to get involved. The police are cowards. The community is a coward because they have this egoistic individualism. That's the reason why people are cowardly like that. You go to Nigeria, there's knife crime there, but it's not on the level. Ghana, it's not on the level. Sorry to say, go to any African country of your choosing, it is not on the level of the UK. And there's a reason for that.
So you're saying because these Middle Eastern countries have this religious meta story that doesn't make them egotistic, or it makes them more community.
No, I'm saying yeah.
I think the thing is, knife crime isn't the only way.
Sorry, you want to say something?
I think in other countries there are other ways to kill people besides stabbing.
Yeah.
So like, I guess you have shootings.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying to you, it's not on the level. I'm telling you, even that, it's not on the level. Like, for example, go to anywhere in Latin America, compare it with anywhere in the Middle East. Okay, let me ask you a question. What is more likely to be a dangerous place for you to go? Anywhere in the Middle East. Let's exclude the war zones. Let's exclude them. Yemen and Syria, let's exclude them, and occupied Palestine. Let's exclude those three places, yeah? And Libya, which is like 4 of... But war zones are war zones, isn't it? Okay, anywhere in the Middle East you like. Where I'm from, Egypt, yeah? Compare Egypt with Mexico. Which is more safe place to go? If you walk in the street and anywhere in Mexico City, what is more safe for you to walk in the street there or in Egypt, in Cairo?
It's a good question.
Well, they're both two different countries. I mean, Egypt has like stricter laws, whilst Mexico's kind of dangerous for a different reason.
I understand, but I promise you would not be saying that if you went to both countries, because it's a good comparison. Mexico City versus Cairo.
That's a good question.
All right, Mexico City got 20 million people, yeah? Cairo's got 20 million people, same number, yeah? In fact, in the ranking, it's like 5 and 6. Like the 6th most populated city in the world is Cairo. That's double the population of London, by the way. Cairo's got double the population of London, yeah?
Okay.
I'm just giving you an understanding.
Yeah.
Now, if you go Cairo, with all of its problems, there are lots of problems. I'm not saying nothing. But what I'm saying is compare Cairo with Mexico City. In terms of knife violence and gun violence, there is no comparison whatsoever. I promise you, there's no comparison.
I mean...
Compare Cairo with London, there's no comparison.
I mean...
Even though I'm telling you, by head of people getting stabbed or shot, or killed.
You're saying safety.
Thing is,
anything that can cause harm.
Why is it not happening like that?
No, I don't know.
Do you get it?
It's a good question. I'd have to look at it.
The reason you got to look at individualism as an ideology. You look at, so the idea that you have family, you have community, that does actually have a part to play here. And I feel like
You're saying they don't have family and community in Mexico?
No. In Mexico, it's more of an individual. It's a liberal culture now. It's a liberal culture.
Mexico's more dangerous because of drug trafficking.
Yeah, why? Yeah, exactly. Drug
trafficking. Nothing to do with religion.
It does, because drugs are not allowed in the religion of Islam.
Well, they're not in Christianity either.
I understand, but what we're saying is that they're not acting on a Christian impetus. They are acting. First of all, Christianity doesn't have any strict rules against drugs like Islam does. Yeah. Secondly, in Latin America, they've absorbed Western liberalism. So what I'm saying is that the individualistic liberal flair, look at Chicago. Look at Chicago. Like Chicago.
But what if you do the opposite thing? Where is the safest place in the world, and is it a liberal democracy?
Where is it? Tell me, where's the safest place?
Saying, if you look at the whole world.
All right. How about this? How about a place like Norway, for example? That's clearly an atheistic country.
I don't know what there's. I think it's the crime stats are quite high there as well. You'd be surprised.
Norway.
Yeah. First of all, Norway is 6 million or 7 million people. Yeah. So they've got a sparse population. The population of Norway is spread out.
What about somewhere like Japan?
What about Japan?
Maybe walking along the streets of Japan is the safest.
No, but okay. In terms of safety, I feel like they do have a collectivist spirit. Yeah, in Japan. However, I remember watching a documentary some years ago called Megacities. It was put by Andrew Ma. Yeah, he actually went to Tokyo. Do you remember this? Yeah, he went to Tokyo, and then he went to Dhaka. He went to many different megacities. He went to Cairo as well, in fact, yeah? The cities that are like of a certain population. When he went to Tokyo, it's number one in terms of, it's 37 million people, yeah? 37.5 million according to the last stats. Now, if we're saying that Tokyo, when he went there, and he saw how people were living, where now you have a different kind of issue, it's loneliness. People are renting friends.
But you're changing the topic, aren't you?
No, I got you.
We're evaluating it on a certain scale.
But people are
No. In terms of Japan, my argument would be that the culture is not fully liberal. That they're incentivized by different kinds of culture there, because they have. We talk about liberal countries, yeah. The culture in Japan is not fully liberal. Then I would say, actually, look at the crime stats in Japan. Look at them. I haven't looked at them. Let's look at them. And then number two, they have different kinds of facilities as well. Because if you talk about 37.5 million people in one city, and then most people live in skyscrapers and individual flats, and they don't have the same potential to create ghettos and stuff like that. So there are lots of considerations that one can make. But once again, I'll be honest with you, I haven't looked at the crime stats in Japan. And nor have I gone to that culture or that people. But I do think they have a communitarian spirit there. Which is why they have things like, you know, have you lived in Japan as well? So maybe you can tell us. What do you think? What's the crime like there?
It's very low.
Is it low?
Petty crime is very
Why do you think the reason is?
Organized crime is very high.
Is it?
Yeah, organized crime. Petty crime, and you can live like your...
No, what about stabbings and killings and stuff?
No.
Is it low?
I've left my MacBook like in a cafe for hours and come back.
And why do you think that is then? What's your reasoning behind it?
Well, I think what you mentioned earlier is quite interesting, because there is a collectivist culture. So if one person does one thing against the stream of the sort of community consciousness, they get extremely ostracized.
Yeah, so do you think that, okay, so he's confirmed what I was already thinking, and that's why they have a strong like culture of like suicide and stuff like that, if you've shamed the family. I remember reading a story of a man who left his family, because he was in a house, yeah, and he left in Japan, in Tokyo. He left his house because he could no longer provide for them. He thought he was useless, so he said, you know, I'm leaving.
That happens.
Yeah, so the point is that there's a strong sense of honor, collective community honor there in Japan. I'm not saying Islam is the only solution, by the way. My thesis is as follows, is that when you have a strong individualism, okay, and you compare it to more collectivistic cultures, then the individualistic cultures are more likely to be high in crime than the collectivistic ones. That's my idea. Because if you go to a Christian community in Africa, that's why I said any country in Africa. If you go to a country which is majority Christian in Africa, but they are all, have a strong community or tribal allegiance, then it will be the tribal fathers that will come in and so on. Or chief masters or whatever they call it.
Do you believe that Islam is something that is applicable to any country and any culture at any time? In other words, is it something that's eternal?
Yeah.
Your justification for that?
Yeah, I believe in that. I mean, that's what the religion of Islam claims to be. But then that doesn't mean that it's rigid. It doesn't mean that it doesn't take into consideration the socio-economic or political factors. Because there is an inbuilt flexibility in the religion of Islam, such that you can have, like, you know, culture of, for example, if Japan became a Muslim country, yeah, like maybe Malaysia is a good example because it's the closest to it. Malaysia wasn't a Muslim country, Indonesia wasn't a Muslim country, then became. But if you compare Malaysia and Indonesia to Egypt, once again, You're going to find many things in the former that you didn't find in the latter, because they have a different kind of temperament, a collective temperament, they have a different culture, and so on. So I'm not saying that Islam is going to come in and engulf everything. It comes in, yes, and it's...
Pick what fits.
No.
Change about a little bit and just
it comes in and gives principles of how to live one's life. Overriding principles. God is the Most High. These are the laws. You know, this is how you should be with your family. This is how you should be with your community. Okay, but then you as a culture, as a people, bring in your own flavor of that. So, you know, in Malaysia, it's not going to be the same as Nigeria.
And your justification for that, do you believe that, do you believe like human beings are also in that sense, you know, something that is, you can apply to them like the book would be the Quran.
Say again?
The book of the Quran would be in your case.
Yeah.
That you can apply that to human nature, because also human nature is not something that is changing. It's something that you can explain from within like the context of religion.
So what did you say that again, sorry?
So I'm saying, you believe that human nature is not something that like changes over time either. It's something that is fixed.
Human nature is another topic. So let me answer the question. I feel like Islam has 2 or 3 things that are important and have a cross section with the psychological literature. Yeah. First of all, the idea of fitrah, which is that everyone is born with the predisposition to believe in God. All right. But there's another thing as well, which is that the Quran states that وَنَفْسٍ وَمَا سَوَّاهَا فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا, and by the self and he who created it. So he inspired it by giving it propensity to do good and propensity to transgress. So the human being has propensity to do good or bad. Okay, both of that is an integral part of the human project. God has put that in both of us. قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا, the Quran continues, the one who has purified himself has succeeded. وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا, and the one who corrupts himself is a failure. So you have the potential as a human being to be either or. Okay, so why they say there's a cross section of like the psychological literature is that in psychoanalytic theories you'll find that, you know, the psyche and the dark side of the psyche and all these kind of things is there. You know, the unconscious mind, we believe in all of that. In fact, where Freud wrote a book on dreams and experimented with like the idea of the unconscious, where dreams come from, we also believe that dreams can be of the unconscious mind. That was something that was said 1,400 years ago. Al-aql al-batin or takhabbat al-aql, so it's the same thing was there. So when you find that the unconscious mind is composed of these different things, the potential to do good, the potential to do bad, some that can surface into the conscious reality and sometimes it's not. But yeah, that's where there's a cross section, I would say, between the psychological literature and the Islamic understanding of, you know, for example, human psychology.
Because, you know, often it's not just against Islam, but against any sort of religion, or any, let's say, dogmatic religion, let's say, in that sense. The common argument is that it can't really be applied to human beings because human beings are essentially an ongoing phenomenon, right? They're like a future-orientated and, you know, they change all the time. And you talked about the fitrah, but, you know, the opposite side would be the sort of like existentialist Jean-Paul Sartre and his ilk, who would say, actually, we're born without a blueprint, right? We are who we make ourselves to be, how we live our lives out.
Well, I mean, I don't know if Sartre said that or not. I haven't read that.
I think he did, yeah.
But I can remember. Descartes said the exact opposite. He said we're all born with the autograph of God, and so the idea that you're born like, because he got that from, you know, when he went through the meditations and he went through all them. This is cogito ergo sum. I think, therefore I am. He said that's the highest level. It's the thing that. But he said that is we are born with the autograph of God. I think, therefore, God is as well. You know, and so the idea that we're born with that, I think, is a fixed part of the human psyche. That is a fixed thing. But the other things are there as well, and it's for the human being to choose, basically. And we believe it's a voluntary agent. Human being is a volitional agent.
Oh, you do believe that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. You don't believe it that the human being's action is determined then?
We believe in compatibilism.
Okay. Ah, okay. I was under the impression that, because it's a debate, isn't it, at the moment?
Yeah, yeah.
Compatibilism, determinism.
Now we believe in compatibilism.
Actually, do you mind me asking you about that?
Yeah, of course.
Because I'm struggling with this concept that, you know, God is sovereign, right? And so He knows what's going to happen in the future, right? So He has complete sovereignty over humankind, but at the same time He's giving them free will. So it seems like from the outset that there's a contradiction here, because how can you really have free will if God has sort of written out exactly what you're going to do? And I've been studying this Catholic monk called Spanish monk in the Middle Ages, something
Molinism.
Yeah. And
William Lane Craig is doing something on that answer.
Yeah, he had an interesting idea that he said God has
the wood knowledge, middle knowledge, yeah.
Middle knowledge.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what would be a good way of explaining the Islamic argument for that? Because it's a struggle to think, well, I'm free, but actually God has written it out.
I should start off by saying, quite frankly, that just as Christianity has divided on the issue, so has Islam. All right. If we're being completely honest, right? I take the compatibilist position, but there were more positions that are closer to crass determinism, and there were more positions that are closer to libertarian free will within the Islamic idea. Just like in secularism, there are all three views. Same thing with Islam, same thing with Christianity. You have Arminianism, you have Calvinism, and then you have Molinism, as you've mentioned, right, with Molina, and which William Lane Craig is defending the position of academically right now. The wood knowledge or the middle knowledge is actually, I was looking myself to find if there's any, are you going to go?
I'm going to head off.
All right, nice take care. You too, my friend. Yeah, see you later. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, let's take a picture. Well, you've got it all there, so you know you can. Let's take a picture. Come.
Wait.
Take it for you.
Hi. Do you want him to take it for you?
Yes, please.
Yeah. We'll talk about middle knowledge in a second. Yes.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Yeah. See you later, everyone. So middle knowledge. Actually, there's a view which is commensurate with it in the Islamic paradigm, and it took me a long time to find it. But there's a guy called Najmuddin al-Tufi which had the pretty much same view. But he said that God, not the same view, he had a slightly different view, which is that God holds you to account based on what knowledge you would have done if you were free. If you were independent, okay, then God holds you to account based on that knowledge. Okay? Now, that's, for me, it's a problematic view. Because on logical grounds and also on textual grounds, but I'm just letting you know that there is a kind of similar view in the Islamic view. The main opinion, the compatibilist opinion, is that there is an intersection, there is a symbiosis, there is some kind of compatibilism between godly determinism and human free will. Human being, from one perspective, is completely volitional. But from another perspective, is totally dependent. He's dependent existentially. That without God, human being would not exist. Just like without the sun, this tree would not exist in front of us. But God has also allowed the human being to make decisions on his own behalf, which don't interfere with his own sovereignty. How that takes place, the mechanisms of that, I don't know. And in fact, I believe they're unknowable. Because the Sunni position, the Sunni Islamic position is that anything relating to God's attributes is fundamentally, the howness, the mechanics of it are fundamentally unknowable. So if I would, yeah.
Is that the same for the Sufi and the Shia as well?
Sufis are, like, for example, when we say Sufis, it's not really a creedal school of thought. Right. It's referring to, like, you know, so most Sufis are Sunni, or at least they would claim to be, right? They would say, I am Sunni. If you meet any Sufi, I have, you know, they would usually say I am, you know, I'm Sunni, I'm Deobandi, I'm whatever, yeah? The Shia position, Shiaism, like Tulsi and others like that, is similar to the Mu'tazili opinion, which comes closer to libertarianism, which is there's a person called Al-Qadi Abdul Jabbar, who's a Mu'tazili. He wrote a book, and in that book, he said that basically God creates what we do. God knows. He did it. Mu'tazili is a misconception. People think that the Mu'tazilis believe that God doesn't know, but he affirmed that God knows the future, but lets the human being act on his own spirit, on his own way. How that works out is problematic. That's why the other Sunnis have said no. Actually, it says it will threaten the sovereignty of God. That's the mainstream Ash'ari opinion, which is like represented by Al-Baqillani and Juwayni and these are Al-Ghazali. And it's also the opinion of Ibn Taymiyyah and the Hanbalis. For example, Ibn Taymiyyah said it and Ibn Qayyim said that. So there's a range of opinions here.
Fascinating stuff, yeah. Very fascinating. A lot to think about.
Thank you, my friend. But there's a verse in the Quran which kind of, Quran says, فَلَمَّا زَاغُوا أَزَاغَ اللَّهُ قُلُوبَهُم. When they deviated, God deviated their hearts. So in other words, it's like this. God is all powerful, is sovereign. He has given human beings free will. Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah, in his book, Shifa al-Alil, he states that it's the example of a person, it's like a slave. Okay? A slave has a slave owner, and he says to him, look, here's money, go and buy X, Y, Z. If you don't buy what I want, I'm going to punish you. And if you buy what I want, I'm going to reward you. So he gives him permission, idhn. It's in Arabic, idhn. He gives him permission to go and buy whatever he wants. He says that, who is really in charge here? God is in charge. God is in charge. In this analogy, it's like the slave and the slave owner. He says, God is in charge, but he only gives human beings permission. And since that permission doesn't escape God's sovereignty, there's no contradiction here. So he's saying that, for example, that God gives human beings free will. But since that free will doesn't escape God's permission and or his sovereignty, therefore there's no contradiction between human free will and godly determinism.
Well, it limits your options though.
How so?
Well, I mean, because if God knows, then he set some kind of parameters by virtue of knowing.
I mean, the thing is, I don't feel like knowledge itself is the problem here.
Okay.
I think if God knows that you are going to hell, and then you commit actions, his knowing doesn't mean that he's forced you to go to hell.
Making a choice.
It doesn't mean that he forced you to go to hell.
No, but his knowledge doesn't change, right? It's not like he knows.
Yeah, I agree.
Mind.
I understand,
So
but what I'm saying is that
in that sense, you're just carrying out some kind of like biological deterministic behavior.
No, but then if we're saying that there's human being has free will at the same time here, so God's knowledge doesn't inhibit the human free will. So the question would be, how does godly knowledge of the future inhibit human free will?
Well, it limits your options. It means you can only have, instead of having, I don't know, infinite options, you have like 100 options.
How?
Well, just by virtue of setting some kind of parameter around the. I mean, if you know London, for example, you know the parameters of London. You know that this is going to be outside, this is going to be inside. You have only a few routes that you can, explore. So, I mean, I guess.
No, but if the knowledge is based on the actions of the human being and the godly determinism working together.
Right.
So the knowledge is not despite human free will.
Right. Okay. So it's not a negation.
Yeah.
Regardless. Okay.
What becomes difficult is how could God will it? How could God create it? That's where the difficulty is. And so how can a human being be free at the same time God has willed everything? We're saying there's a mechanism at play which no one knows.
Is it?
The how question is unknowable. It's like asking the question, how does God see?
Exactly.
How does God hear? I don't know.
You don't see any problem with that from the Islamic perspective, that you cannot know these kind of things? Because some common arguments that come from Christians towards Islam is that that there's some kind of, with all due respect, some kind of sort of anti-intellectualism when it comes to these things, whereby you just don't know, right? That's it. Don't even. No.
I mean, the Christian polemics on this issue, intra-Christian discussion, Calvin versus Arminius and Molina and so on, is very similar to the right. Even let me put it this way for you: atheists are debating it. So you have atheists who are compatibilists, like Daniel Dennett, and then you have Sam Harris, who's a determinist. So I mean, this discussion, by leaving Islam, let's say someone is so worried about the Qadr question, he leaves Islam. Oh, I don't know how it works. Okay, what are you going to become? Christian. He's going to see the same discussion there. You're going to become atheist. He's going to see the same discussion there. He's going to see. So it's a difficulty with the human project. It's something that human beings have found hard to understand. How is it on the secular paradigm that an uninterrupted causal chain of antecedent events causes the future, causes the present, but at the same time, human being has this volitional free will? That's the secular question. The religious question is, how is godly determinism and human free will commensurate with one another, or compatible with one another? And that it permeates to all three major world religions, Abrahamic religions, and all the other religions, in fact. So this question is difficult. In terms of the mechanisms of it, it's unknowable. And that's why if it wasn't unknowable, you wouldn't have, it's one of the biggest debates in philosophy, secular philosophy. It's one of the biggest debates in religion. If it wasn't that difficult in terms of mechanics someone would have some kind of answer for it. But there are debates for that reason.
From the Islamic perspective, you're not saying we shouldn't explore. You're just saying even if we explore, it's just extremely hard.
I'm saying that there are some aspects of this discussion which are going to be fundamentally unknowable. The mechanistic question.
And therefore we should keep exploring, but we just won't know it.
I'm saying there are some things which can be known, and some other things which cannot be known.
Right.
So the things that we say as Muslims that cannot be known is the howness. The mechanistic question, the kayf, how is it? How is godly determinism and human free will come together? We postulate that they do. In fact, I think it's almost undeniable or unfalsifiable to say that right now when you're drinking, as you're talking, as you're acting, that you think you're in charge of your own actions. I think you do. I think I do. And if we didn't think that, as John Locke said, then the criminal justice system would be because in fact I can say, well, I go to court and say, I was encumbered by an antecedent causal chain of uninterrupted events. No one has ever said that in a court. It's never been a defense, and for good reason. Because one of the presuppositions of justice, or justice being served in a law setting, legal setting, is that human beings are volitional, unless, of course, they are mental or insane or something like that. So that's what I'm saying. It's fundamentally impossible to deny or falsify the fact that I am saying, first person subjective, I am in charge of my actions and speech right now. At the same time, it's almost impossible to also postulate, unless you want to deny causality, that there is an antecedent causal and uninterrupted chain of events. So you are in, even if we park the religious discourse to one side, you have this tension. Yeah. And we're saying that that's why many compatibilists say there must be this point of compatibilism. The mechanisms of what I'm saying is unknowable.
One last question.
Yes, sir.
Is it the will of God in Islam that all human beings, as much as possible, gain entry into heaven, go to heaven? Is that his will, or has he sort of, in a Calvinistic sense, more like predetermined people?
The will of God from an Islamic perspective is divided into two. What something called al-irada al-kawniyya and al-irada al-shar'iyya. So the al-irada al-kawniyya is the cosmological will, and al-irada al-shar'iyya is the legalistic will. So if we're saying is it the will of God, then from a legalistic or Shara'i perspective, yes it is. But from a cosmological perspective, no it is not. So then how do we differentiate? We're saying that God has created volitional creatures, independent, not independent in the strictest sense of existential independence, but to make their own decision making. They have free will, yeah? God has made free willed creatures. He has given them guidelines, told them this is what we want you to do, it's a test of life. And a favorable outcome is for you to believe in God, which will satisfy your own egoistic self-inclination. From that perspective, yes, God wills that human beings follow the guidelines. And that's why in the Quran it says, مَا يَفْعَلُ اللَّهُ بِعَذَابِكُمْ إِن شَكَرْتُمْ وَآمَنْتُمْ. What would Allah do? This is a verse in the Quran, Surah Nisa. What would Allah do with your punishment in shakartum wa amantum, if you're grateful and you're believers? Like what gain is there from a godly perspective from punishing you? There's no gain there. So from that perspective, yes. But from the perspective of what will be the will that is carried out, well, the will that is carried out will be the one that is in congruence with justice. It's like to say a judge. I know analogies are all problematic, and this is a problematic analogy. I'm telling you that from the beginning. But he wants to judge in favor of the defendant or somebody, he wants to judge. However, the case makes it the case that he must be prosecuted. For example, if you're a judge and your son was in front of your court, you would want him to be innocent.
Of course, yeah.
You would want him to be innocent. But in terms of you're willing him to be innocent, if you are a judge and you have to judge against him, then you will him to be guilty, if need be. Do you see the point? So the ambiguity, we have to disambiguate this word called will. Because the will can have more than one denotation or understanding. So if we're talking about from a cosmological perspective, then no. Then if we're not, then yes.
Fascinating stuff.
Thank you so much, brother. What was your name again, man?
Mustafa.
Oh, Mustafa. Good to meet you, man. Yeah.
I am from Islamic background, but you know.
Are you from Turkey?
No, I'm from Iraq.
Oh, okay. Inshallah, I come back to the dream.
Inshallah.
Take care,
about a
brother.
lot of things.
Inshallah. Think about it, brother, yeah?
اسمح لي محمد السلام عليكم. I've got a question. If you've got enough energy and time.
Yeah, go ahead.
Barakallahu feek. So I was asked this question, I didn't know how to answer it. So just a clarification, inshallah. So it's Surah Maryam, Mary, 19, verse 7. I'll just say it from Sahih International. O Zachariah, indeed we give you good tidings of a boy whose name will be John, Yahya. We have not assigned to any before this name. Okay, so that's the verse. What I was asked was this. When it says never assigned before, is it full stop within like the total history of humans? Or was it just the family of Zachariah alayhi salam?
No, it's
because some say the Hebrew John, Yahya alayhi salam, is Yohanna, I think if I'm right. And they say, oh, historically there were other Yohannas prior.
I'll look into tafsir just to make sure. But if Allah says, لَمْ نَجْعَلْ لَهُ مِنْ قَبْلُ سَمِيًّا, we have not made it, it could be the case, and I'll make sure of this before, I don't want to, that Allah didn't do tasmiyah of someone like that before. It might not mean the case that he was never called, there was never someone called that before. So Allah, he named certain people, certain things, himself. So Allah, he called him Yahya. So it might be the case that Allah, he never himself assigned the name.
Yani the first time he assigned a human that name.
He's the first time.
Direct.
But it might not be the case, and I have to double check tafsir if this is correct or not.
Sure.
It might not be the case that it was never called that in the whole of history before. But I'll double check for you.
Because I've seen some brackets saying specific to Zachariah alayhi salam's lineage. Yani within just the family.
That might be the case as well. I'll double check to see, inshallah. Thank you, Akhi. We've got to go get some food. Who wants to take these things?
I'll give it to Sam and Dawah and the other place.
You've got it. Thanks, bro. Just going to get a sandwich.
Inshallah. Good.
Put them in the bag or something.